everybody. Welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie, Mandy.
And I'm here with my bestie, Jessica.
All right.
We did it.
We did it.
Yes.
Yes.
So, make sure to go check out our 1K celebration video that we already have out. We are incredibly thankful to our subscribers. Yes. So thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you so much. But we still have things planned, right?
Yes. So go check out our 1K celebration video. We're going to talk all about it and be on the lookout for our giveaways that we have coming on our road to 2K.
Road to 2K giveaway. Yay. Okay, guys. So this is where we go over all the books that we read in the past week with 1-minute synopsises for each book. All right. So, Mandy, let's talk about your reading week. I kind of know how it went, but tell me about your reading week.
It was weird. I got a total of 9 books in, but 4 are all part of a lovely series I read. And nothing, like, I had some good, solid 4-star reads, no 5-star reads, and kind of some duds for me.
Yeah. I had 11 books, but one was a duet, so it makes 10 that we'll talk about. But it was kind of the same. I'm having a really hard time getting into books right now. And, you know, we had this discussion last night. Is it me? Is it the books? It's probably me because we're getting ready to head to California for surgery for my daughter this week. So, like, that's kind of where my brain's at. So it's probably me. But then again, I look at some of these books and go, yeah, I think it's them. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. So I'll get us started. Do you have the timer ready for us?
I do.
All right.
Go.
Okay, so the first book I read is Consequences by Aletha Romig. This was my first 2-star read of the week. This is about Claire and Anthony. Claire becomes Anthony's acquisition, and he's extremely cruel to her. It's told in the third person, and it's really did not age well. So I went into it thinking it was like a captor-captive type situation. But it was really hard to get into because of the way it was told in third person. And sometimes third person doesn't bother me, but this one really bothered me. And just the way he was with her, I was like, yeah, I can't do this. So I gave it 2 stars. It didn't work. It just did not work for me.
You're done before your timer.
Well, I don't have anything good to say. And my mama taught me, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
Yes.
So we're just going to go with that.
Okay. I'll just get a new timer ready for myself.
Okay.
All right. So my first book is called The Surrogate by Penelope Ward. This is one Jessica read last week, and I had not quite finished it yet, but I finally finished it. Mm-hmm. It is about Sig and Abby. Sig's wife, they call him Sig through the whole book, basically. Yeah. His wife passed away several years ago, and his in-laws come and approach him and say, look, Brittany had her eggs frozen. It was her desire to have to have a baby and have basically like herself kind of live on after she was gone. But we only want to do this if you're willing to donate the sperm, but we'll raise the baby. And so he very reluctantly agrees. But even though he's very reluctant about agreeing, he wants to meet the surrogate. So he meets Abby. He's very closed off and standoffish with her. And there's some back and forth, but eventually, like, we move forward with this process. But Sig decides he kind of wants to be involved. So he has Abby come live with him so he can, be involved, even though he doesn't know if he wants to raise the baby. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of, them figuring things out, because this is very complicated. It's not just a random baby she's carrying it. It's his with his deceased wife, who he was madly in love with. Mm-hmm. So lots of feelings in this one.
In all honesty, they were only together for 6 months before she died, so he didn't have time to get annoyed with her.
I was very surprised when that is revealed, because the way it's like he had been in love with her his whole life, basically.
Yeah.
So to find that is what happened, it's a little different.
Mm-hmm. What rating did you give it?
I gave it 4 stars.
Okay. I gave it like 4.5. So, okay. So my next book, I went back to the Disciple series by Izzy Sweet and Sean Moriarty, and I read Possessing Eden. This is the last book in the Disciple series as of right now. I know that when I've talked with Izzy Sweet, she said they're writing the next book right now. They're working on it. But this is about Eden and Jude. So Eden is married. She's a young mom. She has a 9-month-old, and she married this guy who she thought was going to get her out of like from where she came from and be a better situation. And it turned out he's an abusive dick. And so she runs to her uncle who lives, you know, in like the ghetto. And she's like, I need help. And she finds out that there's a group of people, there's somebody who wants to pay her to spy on these guys that work for Lucifer, which is where Jude comes in. He's a part of this mafia group. And so she takes a job and spies on them to give information back to these people. In the meantime, Jude sees her at the club where she's working to spy on them. And he's one of those over the top guys that's like, yeah, nope, I found her. I found my baby mama. And so he takes her to be his. And he accepts the 9-month-old, like the 9-month-old is his. There are some really funny parts where he's trying to change a diaper for the first time and like all these crazy things. But other things happen. Like he moves her into his house and he's like, here's baby's crib. Oh, but here's a second crib because we're having one right away too. So there's some breeding in that one. Yeah.
Okay.
But I give it 5 stars.
As
I mean, it's
everyone
a soft,
would expect you to do.
Yeah, I know. It's a soft 5 stars. I mean, it wasn't like blow it out of the park kind of thing, but I would do a reread. I do love it. I just felt it was a little bit more than 4.5. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so my next read is several books, and it is for an upcoming Convincing Me to Read segment or video, I guess. So that is going to be actually out on Thursday, March 21st. I almost said February.
I was going to say, not February. I can see it coming out there.
I'm time traveling here. So you're going to want to go check that out. And so we've kind of decided that we'll stop putting those in here to keep it more of like, so when you want to watch the video and see, oh, what book did they pick? You don't already know if you've watched our 1-minute book recs. So let us know if you like that concept or if you really want us to include it in our 1-minute book recs. We'll do what you guys want, but we want to, you know, try and keep it fun here. So let us know what you'd like to see. But for now, you can know to go check that out Thursday, March 21st for our next convincing episode. We just did some bulk recording. As Jessica said, she has to travel with her daughter for surgery. So we're knocking some videos out at once.
Yeah. We've got quite the day of recording because her surgery is on Friday and we normally record on Saturdays and just threw everything off. So, okay. Are you ready for my next one then?
I am. Let's go.
Okay. So I read Keeping Denver. This is by Sandy Alvarez and Daniel. So I've been reading her MC series, and this is one that's not a part of the MC series. But what really got me is this is about Denver, who's homeless. And she is young and she's struggling, and the reasons for why she's homeless are completely legit. And she ends up like she's looking for a job. She lost her job. She's looking for a job. She ends up going to the library, and this older gentleman helps her after somebody tries to like shoo her away. And this older gentleman's like, hey, my grandson works for this lawyer. They're looking for a personal assistant. You know, why don't you apply? And she's like, no, I don't think that'll work. And he's like, just go do it. So he finally gets her in there. She goes to meet this lawyer guy. He's this hot lawyer guy, right? Obviously. She ends up getting the job, but she's able to hide the fact that she's homeless and living in a shelter for quite a while. And then some things happen and it all gets figured out. I really, really enjoyed this one. It was a solid 4 stars. Were there some problematic things? Of course. Was it kind of insta-lovey? Of course. But I still really, really liked it. And I liked that homeless aspect and stuff. So, you know, it worked. Yeah.
All right. So my next book is called The Wild One by Daisy Jane. I love Daisy Jane, so I was excited to read this one. This is about Beck and Bo. Beck is short for Rebecca. And Bo is much younger than Rebecca. Rebecca is a little bit older, and she is a single mom, recently divorced, and she's really just struggling with how everything in her life has kind of panned out because she never saw herself as a single mom at I think she's 37. So she's got 8-month-old baby, lots of stuff going on for her. So then we have Beau, whose father passed away recently. And on his deathbed, he left him with some very unnerving news. And Beau has been spiraling, like drinking, and his friends are pulling him out of bars off the floor and stuff. And he's at Wrench Kings where he works. And that's also the series title is Wrench Kings. And this is number 1. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. And so he is at the counter when Beck comes in to get her air conditioning fixed. He's completely hungover, and their first encounter involves him telling her to be quiet because he's hungover, so he wants her to be quiet. And then she's like, "What? You want me to be quiet?" And then he tells her to calm down. So you can just see where this is going. And then, oops, I think my timer is off or it didn't work. I don't know. He and then he like throws up in a garbage can. So
Nice.
It's not a good meet cute at all. But after he talks with her, he realizes, oh my gosh, I did not mean to come across this way. And it's really kind of a turning point for him in getting things back on track in his life. And he decides that one of the things he wants to get on track with is Beck. Like, he is really attracted to her. Beck is very guarded because she's much older. So Daisy Jane, very well known for writing kinks. But this has a lactation kink in it. But it is done really, really well. It is not smutty like you would expect. Sometimes when you read books that have kinks in it, it's just like one big porn smut fest. This is not this book at all. It's really good. So this was a solid 4 stars for me. I would really encourage people to go read it. It's very good.
And everybody knows you don't tell women to calm down.
Ever. I know. Everybody he works with gives him some advice on that as well.
I love that. Okay. All right. So the next book I read is the duet that I did this week. And this is called Dubious. It's by Charmaine Pauls. It's part of her Loan Shark duet. So I read the first two books. It's the only ones in it. So there's 2 books. This takes place in South Africa, which is just really interesting. The author was originally has grown up in South Africa. But this is about Valentina, and she has a brother, Charlie, that she takes care of. He's a full-grown man. He is her older brother. But when they were younger, he was in an accident that caused a traumatic brain injury where he has the mentality of a child. And so one day she comes home. He's not at the apartment. They're barely making it at this point. And she finds out that one of the people in her neighborhood that she knows took him to go gambling. And so he owes this loan shark now that owns that casino a crud ton of money that they can't just pay back because they just don't have it. And she hadn't signed away his rights, deeming him unable to take care of himself. So he is liable for those. Well, apparently there are mafia type gangy situations and loan sharks all over in this area in South Africa. And so they're hiding out in their house. And this guy, Gabriel, comes to the house. His mom is with him. He is the loan shark. And he decides that his mom wants her dead because of the situation. He decides he's going to take her and kind of like his indentured servant, but she's indentured to him in the bedroom for the next 9 years. And she has to work in the house to pay off the debt. The mom wants her dead, right? So then he decides that he's going to knock her up without her knowledge and maybe tamper with some of that birth control to keep her safe. So, yeah. I gave it 4 stars. There were a few parts where I was busy or where I was a little bored. There were a few times where I was like, I don't know, but I did overall enjoy it. I think because I listened to it and we had the accents that were a little harder to listen, to hear. And it was talking about a demographic that I'm have no clue about. I think that made it a little bit more difficult, but I did enjoy it.
So my next book is called Wife by Penelope. Oh my gosh. Wife by Penelope Sky. This is part of her Betrothed series. So this is about Sophia and Hades. Sophia's family owns a chain of or I think it's maybe just one really luxury hotel. And she is very much in denial about how that hotel really makes its money. And she's kind of figuring that out because she eventually wants to take it over. Her mom is very old fashioned and is like, no, you have to marry somebody and he will take it over. You need a strong man in the world to like protect you from all the bad things that are happening at this hotel. And she's like, no, I can just do it myself. And in the meantime, she gets involved with this guy named Hades, and Hades starts to really fall for her. And he's one of those bad men involved in like money laundering and drugs and all of that, you know, crime world stuff. And he starts to fall for her and he wants a commitment, and she wants to just have a sexual relationship and doesn't want any kind of commitment. And he gets, you know, kind of upset with her. So there's a little bit of back and forth. The blurb on the back of the book talks about her being forced to marry him, like basically because of this whole hotel situation. Nothing, the title is Wife. Nothing like that even happens until like the very end of the book. And then it's just a cliffhanger for you to read the next 9 books.
No, we're good.
So I don't know how the first book wasn't bad, but it was just a lot of build up to something happening. But I don't want to read 9 more books. I think it's 9. I don't want to read a bunch more books when we haven't even gotten to what the first book was supposed to be about. So at this time, I rated it a 3. The writing's not really bad, but nothing was really keeping my attention or interest to keep me wanting to read. So for whatever reason, it just didn't really work for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The end.
Okay. So the next book I read is The Mercer Curse by Pepper Winters. I got Pepper Winters' arc this week for Ruby Tears, which I just started. And so this is the prequel to that. And this, which I didn't even realize, this series is a spin-off from Pepper Winters' Tears of Tess series, which I already read. I don't think that you're going to have to read it before you jump into this one, though. But the prequel kind of sets it up. We see Q, we see Tess, and then Henry is brought in. And I'm saying Henry, but he's French, so it's probably Henri. But whatever. He's brought in. He is Q's half-brother. And Q's not very happy about it. But this whole book is setting up the Ruby Tears situation. You don't have to read it. I just thought it was short. It was short and sweet. It's actually on audio. And I thought, well, why not if I'm jumping into that? So I gave it 4 stars. It was awesome to see Q and Tess again. I was just really into that. So, and I'm anxious, like I'm excited for what I've just started reading, but I like literally just started. I'm only on the first few pages. So, but I hope to have that done for the next thing because it comes out the 12th, I believe. So I got to have it read this week.
All right. So Jessica, before I switch over, I will share this fascinating news with you. Okay. I found a new to us author.
Cool. Okay.
And so it's M.T. Morgan, and she has a few books out, but like very few reviews and ratings on Goodreads. But what's there is really positive. So I stumbled upon this book and I really enjoyed it. So I'm very excited to bring to everyone a new to us author that really needs more hype, which is kind of a passion for us on our channel. So yay. All right, here we go.
All right.
Timer set. Okay, so this is called We Dance and Sin, and this is about Brexley, and Beckett. Brexley had an extremely traumatizing event happen to her when she was very little, and she goes to live with her aunt, and she's grows up pretty poor and does things to make money, like pole dancing and sleeping with men and things like that, so she can afford to go to college. So at college, she meets some people there, and there's kind of this, like, it's a dark, you know, academia type situation we have going on here with like a secret society, and they're called the Misfits, and they bring her in and she has to go through some initiations and things like that. Well, Beckett is one of the people in this, and this gets pretty dark. There's some pretty gruesome killings and things that are happening in this book. And she has to go through these initiations to get into it. There's also like this murder mystery type thing going on in the background. So I really enjoyed it. solid 4 stars, and it sets up the next book, which I will talk about in my next 1-minute segment. Jessica, it is your turn.
Why?
I know I'm keeping the audience on their toes, waiting to hear about the next book.
Yes. Okay. So the next book I read, so if you guys watched our 1-minute book recs from this past week, Mandy had all these TikTok books. And one of them that I didn't choose that Mandy thought I would choose, but I so didn't choose, was My Dark Romeo by Parker S. Huntington and L.J. Shin. So I read it this week because it's been something that's been on my TBR for a while. And I was just highly disappointed. So this is about Dallas and Romeo. And Romeo and Dallas enter into this arranged marriage. Like Dallas is already engaged to somebody else, another arranged situation. And Romeo does something kind of crooked and her reputation gets ruined. And so they have to get married. They hate each other. And it's like just this constant, bicker. It's just constant. I felt like this book was just a recycling of The Kiss Thief, but done crappier. Like I just didn't care. These people were awful. I didn't like Romeo. I couldn't stand Dallas. They were awful characters. I gave it 3 stars and I felt like that was generous. It was awful. I don't understand why these books are so friggin' popular on TikTok because they're awful. So just my opinion though, if you love it, it worked for you. That's awesome. But it did not work for me.
I also think that there's a huge difference from when you go and read, like most people don't read as much as we do. Right. So I think there's a huge difference between when you see a book on TikTok or at the bookstore that's wildly popular and you grab it and you read it. It probably feels a lot different when you haven't read a whole bunch of other books that maybe are similar but were way better. Yes. And so when you're only reading a couple of books, that might be your favorite book just because you haven't read as many.
Right, exactly.
So I think that it can hit different for you.
So, but I'm saying just go read The Kiss Thief if you haven't. That's better. It's by L.J. Shin too. So,
all right. Okay. My last book is We Val Sin by M.T. Morgan, and this is about Primrose and Vance. Primrose has lived her entire life with, she calls it a gilded cage, and she has a not great dad. He's pretty mean and cold-hearted, and he decides to basically arrange marriage her off in forgiveness for some debts he has. So we've met Primrose in the previous book I just talked about. So you definitely need to read these books in order. It's The Sinner's Playground. So that was the first book. This is book number 2. Read them in order so that you understand everything that's going on. So Primrose is, Vance is very interested in Primrose, and he is a mafia prince, and he needs to marry before he can take over the throne, basically. And so he goes and tells her dad, I will take her. I will forgive your debts and I will marry her. And that's where we like really get to the good part of the story. My timer went off again without me hearing it. Something's going on with the phone. Anyway, well, I can't hear anything on it, so I don't know what happened. It's just, I mean, I can hear it. It's just really quiet. Anyway, so there's a lot that happens. These books aren't super long, but she packs a lot in them. But I never feel like it's too much. Like sometimes you're like, whoa, like take a few tropes out. But I never felt like it was overwhelming in this. So again, solid 4-star. Really, really enjoyed it. So if you like kind of that darker romance with some of that college academia dark stuff, the first book is going to go really well. Even if you don't really care for that, read it anyways. I don't think you'll be disappointed. And then you get to this mafia book. So it's really good.
Okay.
So definitely a new author for everyone to go check out.
All right. So you and I both read Penelope Sky this week, and that is my next one that I have to talk about.
Oh,
and
no.
I can see her laughing.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I called Mandy several times about this book.
Jessica had so much to say about this book, and there's one thing that really bothers her in it, which I'm sure you're going to hear about. And I just want everyone to know that I would probably be a millionaire if I had $100 for every time Jessica told me about
That's
this one
gross.
particular thing that happens in this
But
book.
you said that this particular thing happened in your book too. So I'm
It
very
did.
concerned for this
It
author.
only happened once, but I only read
Oh, no.
one of 9 books. So who knows what happens in the other 9?
Okay. All right. Well,
Okay.
let's talk about it. So
Buckle up, folks.
Yeah, buckle up, guys. So this is The Wolf and the Sheep by Penelope Sky. It's the first in her Wolf series. This one also has a crap ton of books in it, and I am not continuing on. But this is about Arwen. She's forced into an arranged marriage with Maverick. Her dad is dying, and Maverick's family wants information from Arwen's dad, and they want information. Like it's an information exchange through marriage. So they marry each other. They hate each other. They sleep with other people throughout the whole book, or at least through the whole first book. And then they finally start sleeping with each other. And again, they hate each other. And nobody's committing to anything. And I'm like, that's not going to work. The thing that Mandy's talking about is this guy waxes poetic about her butthole all the time. In every sex scene in this book, he goes on and on about how looking at her butthole is what does it for him. And I was like, what? So I'm very concerned for this author. She has a thing for buttholes. And I just don't. I really don't.
Yeah. So guess how many times I've got to hear about this. So it's actually concerning that maybe Jessica now has a thing for it because she likes to talk about it a lot. I don't think we had one conversation this week where it didn't get brought up.
It was so weird.
It was more than once.
Nobody wants to look at the hairy brown eye. I'm sorry.
And we talk multiple times during the day.
Yeah, we do. So anyway, let's move on.
Going somewhere and getting that bleached.
Well, that's
maybe that's why it was so impressive.
Okay. Talks about how little it was too, and I'm like, oh. Okay.
What did mine say? I texted you. What did she say in mine?
You said that I'd caused it.
I'm like, thanks a lot.
I mean, I get like her booty doing it for you, but the actual butthole.
Oh. In my book, it said I could write a damn poem about that asshole because it was so perfect.
What the hell? What the? Next, could we just move on?
Yes. So please, in the comments, let us know your thoughts on Jessica's rant this week.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the next book I read is what we have for our buddy read that will be on St. Patrick's Day. So it's on the 17th. And this is When She Unravels by Gabrielle Sands. This is a woman who is married. Valentina, she's married to a very cruel guy. She's been married for a couple of months and it was arranged marriage. She is a mafia darling, and something happens and she flees from this horrible husband that she has, and she ends up in Spain in Ibiza. She ends up there and she goes to work for this guy who runs all of these bars and these nightclubs, and things have to be found out. She's obviously on the run though, and she's dealing with things that she did with the husband and for the husband. And you will have to turn in to it's going to be on Amber's channel, right? Amber Reads Romance.
Yes.
At 1:00 Pacific time.
Yes.
On the 17th for our things. But go read it, guys, because we will do spoilers. And I listened to the audio. It was really good. I really liked it. The guy's name is I can't even say it. Domino. It's Damiano. Domino. They called him Dom. That worked for me. Or Dam. Dim.
Okay.
Okay. Next. Man, just moving it along. So next, yes. Because I had such a crappy reading week, you guys all know what's coming. I did a Ruby Dixon book. I did Mari's Mistake. This is the 10th book in the Ice Home spinoff of Ice Planet Barbarians. So this is about Mari and Tachai. We know going into this book what happened. There was an accident that happened where Tachai got really sick, like he was like cut open kind of thing, having to survive. And so in order to do that, the healer turned off Mari's Qui because they were resonating at the time, and he couldn't like heal and recover while trying to resonate. And so we are dealing with the ramifications of that, because with her Qui turned off, she can't stand to touch her husband at all. So that was this book. I still loved it. That was exactly what I needed, was this little refresher, because I just felt like everything was horrible this week and I just didn't know what to do. Okay, so for my last book, I read Where's Molly by H.D. Carlton. So this is a spinoff of her cat and mouse duet, which I love the cat and mouse duet. I did not like this book. No, I gave it 3 stars. I honestly feel like that was being generous too. So this, it just kind of felt like a ripoff. It's not very long. It's like 220 pages. It felt like it was just rushed and it was thrown together, even though it sounded like, I mean, like she was teasing it for over a year. So we knew she was writing it. It just did not work. It felt like she took the characters of Zaid and Addie and like just recycled them, because Molly and Cage were Zaid and Addie all over again. And I just had a really hard time. There's one scene in here that was the hardest for me, and this is a personal thing, but there is a sex scene in here towards the end where she cries out, "Oh God," and he makes a comment about how something about crucifying Jesus again. It was very blasphemous. I don't even want to get into it. It just, for me, I was like, whoa. The only saving grace with this book is we have an extended epilogue, and it is Zaid and Addie at the very back of the book, because it says, well, now that you've stuck with us, here's your reward, and you get Zaid and Addie scene. But I just no. It just, there was a lot of hype. It just wasn't what I was expecting. And I wanted more of like how she ran away and how she met Cade. It almost felt very insta-lovey. In certain parts, it felt very smutty because it's told in past and present. And when we're in the present, they just screw. It's pretty much all it is. So there was no connection. I just had a hard time with it. So that's it. All right, guys. Nobody come at me. I know it's very loved. If you loved it, that's awesome. But it just didn't work for me. So, all right. So those are the books that we read this week. Yay!
All right. So make sure to check back on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for new videos from us. And also, once again, thank you so much for subscribing and helping us to get to that 1K. Make sure to leave us some comments. We've talked a lot, so you should probably have a lot of things that you want to share with us.
Yeah, well, tell us all about the buttholes.
No! Stop it. You're taking our channel in a weird direction. Earlier today, Jessica told me she was getting a webcam.
I was getting a what?
A webcam?
Because we couldn't get the friggin' phones to work. Not because I was getting a webcam. Not because I wanted to do that stuff. You have a dirty mind.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.